Hey Fatheads, welcome to another Cigar Federation cigar review. Today we're reviewing the Kesara by MBombay. Now I've not had any of the MBombay offerings, so I'm always excited to try a new cigar from a company that I haven't had before. You can see on the band, this has actually got a double band, so this is the outer band. It's very India inspired. It's very colorful. It's probably one of the most elaborate bands I think I've ever seen in a cigar. It's got MBombay on the bottom. A little bit about this cigar. It's got an Ecuadorian Connecticut Diaz Florada 2002 wrapper. It's got an Ecuadorian Havana binder, and then it's got some Dominican and Peruvian fillers. So that's a interesting group of combinations. Given that it's got an Ecuadorian Connecticut Diaz wrapper, this is probably going to be in the light plus to maybe medium minus side. So I'm smoking this earlier in the day. I find that I tend to like a lot of Connecticut shade wrappers, cigars earlier in the day, so that's where I'm trying it. This is the number 2. It's a torpedo. It's a 6-inch by 50D ring gauge. You can see it's got a closed foot on it. Closed foot tends to protect the end of the foot a little bit better. So it'll be a lot of fun. It comes in a lot of Vitola choices. So you've got a Robusto Largo, which is a 4.5 by 54. It's got the number 4, which is a 5 1/10 by 44. It's got a 585, which is 5 by 58. The number 2, which we're reviewing today, a Salomon, which is a 6 by 58. I'm a big fan of the Salomons. That's actually a little short for me for a Salomon. I'm used to Salomons being a little bit longer than that, 7.5. Toro, 6.5 by 52. A Pyramid, 7.5 by 54. And then an A size, 9 by 47. So that's a pretty complete Vitola offering. So we're going to get to nosing here in just a minute, and then get to toasting and start talking about the flavors that are coming through. All right, so let's talk about the nose here. Very dry cedar, sweet cedar, maybe a hint of hay. Some interesting spices actually there. I'm not sure I can put my foot on that, or put my thumb on that. But it's a complex cedar hay combination, which I don't think I've smelled before. That's really interesting. Okay, well, it'll be tough to see if we can get anything out of the foot. It's a closed foot. Yeah, and I'm not picking anything up there. So I'm going to jump right into the toasting now. Because this is a torpedo, I'm going to shy away from the V-cut. You can V-cut a torpedo, but the results are sometimes less than desirable. So I'm going to use my my straight guillotine. So first of all, get into the toasting here. And, with all toasts, the trick is to not scorch the wrapper. And especially when you're talking about a Connecticut shade, Connecticut wrapper, this is a very, very light wrapper. And you really don't want to be burning the wrapper because it's going to impart some pretty significant flavor changes. So you can see how far away I've got the lighter, trying to be really careful about scorching the wrapper here. And it's going to be tough to see. I find it difficult with a closed foot to see whether it's actually lit or not. So we're going to start with that. I'll probably end up having to make another touch up here. We'll give that a straight cut. Now, you don't want to take too much off a torpedo, and torpedoes tend to be some of my favorite Vitolas, so we're just taking a little bit off there. Just the tip. So I didn't give it enough of a light. It was a little conservative. Very sweet start. Very much a graham cracker. Light but complex. I may have to toast this again a little bit because I'm being quite conservative. Don't want to scorch the wrapper. Very interesting start. So we'll let the first third settle in here and talk about all the flavors that are coming through. So it's nicely lit now. Lots of smoke production. Quite rich. In fact, much more pronounced than what I would typically expect out of a Connecticut. Even in Ecuadorian Connecticut, there's a lot more body here than I think I was anticipating. Initially, I got a really light graham cracker with a little bit of hay. Off the retrohale, I'm actually getting some medium minus spices. There's a little bit of leather going on, a little bit of earth going on. That's post-draw. It's very subtle, but it's there. So there's a ton of cigar to smoke here. I feel like I'm going to have to check in a few minutes and sort of let these flavors get a chance to establish themselves. So we're about 10 minutes in here. There's some cherry coming through on the retrohale. It's subtle and it's deep in there, but there's like this, it's just this sweetness, and then if you sort of pay attention to the sweetness, it develops into this rich cherry. It's not bright fruit cherry. It's like a very subtle cherry there. And there's a little bit of pepper. I didn't notice it at first because it's very subtle, but it's almost like a cooking spice where it's got a little bit of heat and it only comes through afterwards, 30, 40 seconds, you've kind of settled after a draw, and I'm mostly picking it up on my lips. So this cigar has a lot to offer. I'll be back to check in. Coming up on the 20-minute mark, there's a little bit of chocolate coming through. It's very light. The post-draw pretty much dominated by a light hay. In fact, that's all I can taste post-draw is really hay. But there's still that sweetness in there. That cherry sweetness that I was picking up with the retrohale, still there, but it's kind of waxing and waning. So sometimes I can pick it up, sometimes I can't. We're still got a lot of cigar to go here. Coming up on the 25-minute mark here, the chocolate is stepped up in intensity, so it started out very subtle, and now it's really at a medium minus strength. I think it's predominant flavor that I'm picking up here. Retrohale is this just rich, sweet spices. And this is a very, very structured cigar. I wish I had a great coffee or a nice tea that I could, nice hot tea that I could reach for, not just because it's cold, but I think that would be a really nice pairing here. 35-minute mark, unfortunately had some issues taking the large band off. The downside, I think, to a large band is that it is sometimes difficult to get off. There's a lot of glue that's used, and unfortunately there's a little bit of wrapper damage as a result. A little disappointing, but hasn't affected the smoking of the cigar. Still very enjoyable. Nothing else to really report at this point. We still got about 10 or 15 minutes before we get into the middle third. Coming up on the 50-minute mark, very casually taking this first third because there's a lot of flavors here going on. I would say that based on the first third, this is an outstanding cigar. If the flavor profiles can keep up with this level of complexity throughout the entire cigar, this is going to be a very, very easy minimum box split choice. This is a cigar that I would be pairing with, not because the cigar needs it, but because it's got so much going on. I think you could bring a lot more out of this cigar with a coffee or a tea or something light. You don't want to overpower a lot of the flavor complexities here because it is nuanced. I'm very much looking forward to the middle third, so I'll check back in the middle third here and see what other flavors come to the forefront. So pretty significant flavor profile changes going into the middle third. If the first third was sweet and nuanced with a little bit of fruit note, the middle third starts out with this rich spiciness. Again, medium minus, this is a very much Connecticut profile, so it's not going to blow you away with complexity and overpower you. It's nuanced, it's structured. The spices are sweet, but there's many layers to them. So you take a puff and you kind of think on it. You definitely want to pay attention to this cigar. You don't want to just puff, puff, puff away because I think you're going to lose a lot of the flavors that are going on here. And again, it's a cigar you want to take your time with. You don't want to just, smoke this while you're golfing. This is a cigar I think you want to give some respect to and try and understand as you're smoking. Just fantastic layers of spices there. Very tasty. So I'll keep checking in the middle third as this continues on. Passing the 1 hour mark, spices are still there. They've receded to a light plus. So they start out quite prominent and they're receding in intensity. There's a little bit of a cedar gaining foothold in the post-draw. A little bit mouth drawing. Probably I'm going to get some water here to pair with. Nothing much else to report so far. Hour and 20-minute mark. Flavor profile is largely the rich, nuanced spices with a mixture of cedar in there. Cedar is very prominent on the post-draw. Again, a little bit drawing, so if you're not pairing with a beverage, you probably want to have some water here just to cut that out. But very, very good middle third. Hitting the hour and a half mark here. Middle third is all done. Getting into the last third. Creamy start to the last third. Mixed in with the spices, which have fallen again to light plus, and that cedar, which is not quite as overpowering as it was, or predominant, as I should say, in the middle third. It's all kind of mixing in together, so we'll see how the final third settles in, and then we'll wrap this review of the MBombay Kesara up. Hour and 40-minute mark, wrapping up the review of the MBombay Kesara. There was some floral notes that came through about 5 minutes ago, a little bit of earthiness. It's all kind of settling in. Fantastic cigar. Really enjoyed the opportunity to smoke this MBombay Kesara, and really it's going to make me want to try some of the other offerings from MBombay for sure. You'll have to check out the written review at cigarfederation.com, but I think this is going to be a pretty easy choice as a box split minimum. Thanks very much for checking out the video review, and if you like our content, make sure to check out the written review at cigarfederation.com and give us a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Thanks very much.